Well, let's go ahead and start off with the news right now. And we are starting off with Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, who has reaffirmed that the Lublin Triangle remains steadfast in its support for Ukraine. Speaking alongside his Lithuanian and Ukrainian counterparts, Sikorski announced that Poland has already delivered 45 military aid packages to Ukraine and that more are on the way. The meeting marked the 5th anniversary of the Lublin Triangle, a trilateral platform launched in 2020 to strengthen political, economic, and cultural ties between Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine.
The L3 initiative supports the heroic struggle of Ukraine. Poland has already given 45 packages of arms and ammunition, and we're working on future deliveries. Poland has devoted 4 billion euros so far, not counting coordination of military supplies from other countries or humanitarian aid that has been donated by third states. Poland and Lithuania have been supporting Ukraine politically as well. Ukraine is facing Russian aggression, and Poland and Lithuania promote Ukraine's interests across all kinds of initiatives like NATO. Recently, we did so in Turkey, but also we speak for Ukraine across the European Union.
The Polish Foreign Ministry has said that they consider the missile attack on Polish-owned factory in the Ukrainian city of Vinnytsia a deliberate act. Rescue and cleanup operations on the site are still underway.
I can confirm there was an attack tonight on the production facility of the Polish Barlinek company in Vinnytsia. It was a massive attack targeting the entire city. As far as we know, 28 drones flew over, 18 of which were shot down. A Polish floorboard production plant was hit by 5 drones. Everything indicates it was targeted deliberately, that it was not random. The rescue operation is underway. Firefighting is ongoing. I am in constant contact with our representatives there. Preliminary reports indicate 6 people were injured, 2 of whom seriously.
Ukraine's parliament has voted to accept Prime Minister Denys Shmyhal's resignation in a move that will trigger a government reshuffle. Shmyhal's dismissal effectively dissolves the cabinet, and lawmakers are now expected to approve new members on Thursday. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy earlier this week tapped First Deputy Prime Minister Yulia Svyrydenko to lead the new government. She is the only candidate for the position. Local media report that the reshuffle could see Shmyhal replacing Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, who's expected to become Ukraine's ambassador to the United States.
Humanitarian crisis right now, so that's why we are talking with the government.
And now to some breaking news out of Brussels. The European Union is still wrangling over its 18th package of sanctions against Russia, which has so far been blocked by Slovakia. Our correspondent Alex Cardier has been following this for us and joins me now for Brussels. Good afternoon, Alex. Now, these sanctions were meant to be signed off yesterday, and yet still no deal.
Yeah, that's right, Don. And I have to say, if you were a Ukrainian member of the government, or Ukrainian civilians that have been hit in the last few weeks and days, you would be looking at the goings-on in Brussels, simply thinking, what on earth are they playing at? Because just in the last few minutes, Don, we've had confirmation that the sanctions package, the 18th package of sanctions, which would target the Nord Stream pipeline, which would hurt Russia's ability to finance its full-scale invasion of Ukraine, has not been agreed by those ambassadors gathered today. We heard just 24 hours ago, more than 24 hours ago, from Kaja Kallas, who said the EU was set to agree this round of sanctions, that the foreign ministers that were assembled here tomorrow would be able to have a political agreement on that. Well, no, they were Slovakia blocking. And again, Kaja Kallas saying that the Commission had given Slovakia all the concessions it had asked for when it came to these sanctions. And effectively, when you come to a proposal and you ask for compromise and you are given the compromise, you should not then change what you ask for. That was the message from Kaja Kallas. It has not stopped Robert Fico, the Slovak Prime Minister, and his government from asking more. So the request from Slovakia was to be exempted from the phasing out of Russian fossil fuels by the European Union. He wanted his country to be able to honour their contract with the Russian energy giant Gazprom until 2034. Something, of course, which goes completely against the spirit of those sanctions. So for now, you have 26 member states supporting these sanctions, including Hungary, I have to say, against Russia. Of course, it would include an oil price cap of $45 down from 60, more ships from the Russian shadow fleet sanctions, more Russian banks sanctions, and therefore harming Russia's ability to prosecute this war. But for now, after hours of wrangling, Slovakia is still blocking, which means the European Union can't move. Don?
All right, Alex Cardier reporting there from Brussels. We'll check in with you later, and I'm sure we'll be following this in the upcoming days. Thanks for your report. Now moving on, for Donald Trump, this is personal, said Scott Lucas, professor of American Studies at University College Dublin, describing the U.S. president's recent decision to impose a 50-day ultimatum on Russia or face severe sanctions.
For Donald Trump, this is personal. He's frustrated with Vladimir Putin because Trump's vision was that he could end this Russian invasion, albeit pretty much by accepting the Kremlin's conditions, but then he could get the Nobel Peace Prize and get all the glory that he seeks each and every day. The problem with those tactics is that Vladimir Putin doesn't want to make any compromise or any concessions to give Trump that Nobel Peace Prize. So not only have Russia refused to compromise by accepting a ceasefire, they've been expanding their missile and drone attacks. These are now record-setting attacks, most of them on Ukraine civilians. And there's no easing of the demands that Russia be able to seize 20% of Ukraine, that it be able to keep Ukraine weak and demilitarized, that sanctions are lifted on Moscow, and even that the Zelenskyy government be pushed out of power. So with no prospect of a resolution, Trump gets angry. And then you have this decision he makes, all right, we will begin to provide weapons to Ukraine.
Axiom 4 is the mission with the highest scientific and technological components in the history of commercial spaceflight, said Sławomir Uznański-Wiśniewski after landing in Cologne, where he'll undergo a recovery program. The Polish astronaut thanked the European Space Agency and Polish scientific institutions for their participation in what he described as a successful and groundbreaking mission.
Axiom 4 is the mission with the highest in history of commercial spaceflight, the highest scientific and technology component. We had 60 investigations during the whole Axiom 4 missions, 13 out of designed, built, and sent by Polish institutes and Polish companies through ESA execution, payload integration, and everyone made it to manifest. 100% of science, 100% of objectives of the mission were executed, and that demonstrates not only the high quality, but also a really strong motivation behind Polish institutes and the highest quality of ESA teams that allowed us to integrate that. So big kudos to ESA. We had really beautiful moments during the mission. We demonstrated the first brain-machine interface in space ever tested, which pushes the boundaries of science.
And that concludes this edition of World News. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.